everybody, and welcome back to another Friday Night Spotlight. We officially have a full slate this week. All of our schools are in action, 5A all the way down to 2A. And before we get into all that, a reminder, this show is brought to you by 911 Air Repair, your local air conditioning experts specializing in maintenance, repair, and new installations. As I mentioned, all of our teams are in action, so our game of the week is going to be at the 5A level for us here in Pinal County. Depending on who's talking about it, for us on the outside looking in, this is an intriguing matchup, but if you ask the coaches, they're going to have a different response. However, our game of the week is Casa Grande Union traveling up to Tempe Corona del Sol. David, what's our intriguing point in this matchup?
The intriguing point about this is that Coach Barrow is going to face Casa Grande Union for the first time since leaving Casa Grande Union and leading them to a 4A state championship at the time. So this is why we're kind of making a big deal about it. But like you said, if you ask the coaches, they may not have the same feeling for this one. But for us, it's going to be interesting. You know, Jake Barrow went off to Corona del Sol, and he is going to kind of take this team and try to lead them to new heights. And after the success he had at Casa Grande Union, and for Casa Grande Union now, Mark Luna going into his second year, he's here to prove that Casa Grande has a stake in the 5A conference after moving up from 4A to 5A last year. You know, it was a little bit of a struggle at times. They weren't able to be as consistent as they were previously. So it's still just kind of a learning curve for them, and we're figuring out where their placement is in 5A. So that's going to be the big sticking point for this game. You know, obviously it's going to be great to see Coach Barrow and what he does against the team that he'd had so much success with. So that's going to be the big talking point. But for me, it comes down to just who are they going to be these key players going into this year. Coming up, you know, we got El Tornigan at quarterback. He had a very unfortunate task last year to lead up and go after Angel Flores, had so much success. So he's going to have to prove that he can do this. And he had a pretty solid year as just a sophomore last year. Threw for just over 1,300 yards, had 9 touchdown passes, and he had some trouble with interceptions though, so he's going to have to watch that. But it's really going to be who are these key players going in. And another guy that we want to talk about obviously is Avian Williams. He has been, you know, a very highly touted guy for this team for a while, and they're really hoping to see what he can do for them. He's got a lot of hype going into this season, and it's time for him to, you know, build up to it and build into the hype and be that guy that they want so far. So this one's going to be really fun. I don't know, honestly, who to pick, and thank goodness I don't get to pick anybody because I'm covering this game. So I'm just hoping for a really good matchup here and for a fun football game.
So for me on CG Union's side, 2 guys I got to point out, and I'm really excited to see what they can do at the 5A level, are the Banks twins, Norian and Kyrese. They are joining CG Union after being at Sequoia Pathway for a majority of their whole high school career. They are seniors now. And at the 2A level, they were pretty much men playing against boys, just to put it simply. Norian, he led the Pumas last year in tackles, 87 of them, 6 sacks. Kyrese was the next guy up, 69 tackles, 5 sacks on offense. Norian Banks, over 1,100 rushing yards and 11 touchdowns. So it's going to be interesting to see how these 2 guys adjust to this 5A level of competition. You know, they're going to be going up against guys that are the same size, have the same strength, and just, you know, are very similar to them, and just trying to see what they can do at this level. On Corona's side, we got to talk about their passing game with quarterback Connor Akerley, over 2,200 passing yards last year, a 66% completion rate, 22 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. So it's going to be interesting to see how the CG Union defense can try to limit what he can do, because he has a wide array of offensive weapons, like with Crew Swearingen, Raiden Vines Bright, and Zuri Glenn. So we're just going to have to wait and see just what CG Union can do in their second year, as David mentioned it, at the 5A level, and also under Mark Luna. Moving over to our what to watch, David, what other game do you have your eye on this week?
Well, it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody that I'm going after Santa Cruz this year, and especially with this team for having a lot of hype and a lot of expectations for this year. You know, going into last season, they brought in a new head coach in Thomas Cortez, and still had some question marks, especially with, you know, just who are going to be the new guys that are going to step up and lead this program into success. And they definitely found those guys like Nathan Harris and Jonathan Ramos, quarterback and running back duo, have been really solid for them as well. And, you know, Thomas Cortez is a guy that he wants to win. He is he's a very dedicated guy to this squad, and he really wants to prove that Eloy can reach those heights that they found again in 2020 when they won the 2A state title. And I expect they can definitely make a case if everything falls right for them. They're going to have to focus on what they can do offensively and defensively. The team is definitely bulked up a little bit. They have a little bit more size than they've had in recent years, and this team is definitely going to have to focus on, sticking to their game plans and sticking to what makes this engine go. And Thomas Cortez was a guy that really showed that this team is ready to fully commit to this program. After last season, they lost their final game that could have honestly clinched them a spot in the playoffs. And he said that their guys came right in. They were like, when do we get back? When do we get back going again? And that's the dedication that he's looking for. That's the kind of fight and grit that he wants to see in his players. And I expect them to pull out a win in this one. I think it's going to be a good start to this year and a good start to a hopefully successful season. I think the Dust Devils can definitely possibly reach that playoff point again. It depends on what they can do throughout the rest of the year. But to start the year, I'm going to give them a win here and hope they can continue to lead to more success.
All right, and my game to watch is Florence, and they're going to be competing against, I don't know, it's a neutral zone here. Both of these teams are going to be playing up at NAU at Walkup Sky Dome, Florence and Chandler Valley Christian. Now the thing here is Valley Christian has been a bit of an Achilles heel for all of our 3A conference teams here in Pinal County. I'm looking for this to be a different case though. I think Florence has the upper hand here. Yes, Valley Christian is coming off a big win, 45-2 against Tempe, but it's Tempe. I mean, you can't really expect much. And looking at their stats, Valley Christian only posted 296 total yards of offense. Florence is going to be a completely different animal to go up against. They're not going to give up the ball so easily. They're going to be able to move it a lot better than Tempe does, and a big reason for that are their quarterback and running back in Logan Stenson and Josh Jackson. Josh Jackson had a phenomenal season opener against Gilbert Christian last week. He rushed for 259 yards, 4 touchdowns. 3 of his touchdowns, I gotta point these out. One was for 80 yards, 68 yards, and 77 yards. Now, this guy seemed virtually impossible to stop against Gilbert Christian, Valley Christian. A lot of Christians here. Valley Christian might be a little bit more difficult, but I still think Florence has the upper hand. Also talking about them defensively, Wyatt Stenson, Michael We're going to call him Michael S. because I can't pronounce your last name. I am sorry. And then Caden Valle, 3 guys that can really get the job done. And also Jackson. Jackson, we got to talk about this guy. We're going to be talking about him all year long pretty much when we talk about Florence. Jackson also came up with an interception, as did Wyatt Stenson. So I mentioned it early on in the summer. Nobody really knows about them, but I think Florence is going to be our top team here in Pinal County. And from what I saw in that first week, hey, this is the sky is the limit for this team, and they can only get better. So this is just a really fun and exciting team that we really have to keep our eye on. Real quickly, we're going to throw up our picks for this week. David, anything else you want to add overall?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Florence, because shout out to our teams that are making the long trip up to Flagstaff to compete on Saturday. We got Florence playing, and we got Santan Foothills going up there as well. So, guys, we're coming. We're going to be there. We're going to hope to get a win out of you guys and hope to see you guys, play a good football game up at the Sky Dome in Flagstaff.
Going off of that, busy week for us. Not just Friday and Saturday games. We also have 2 Thursday night football games, so be sure to look out on Pinal Central for all of your local sports coverage.